This music tutorial is also dealing with constructing major scales, but this time we're going to use a different method. We're going to use what I call the intervallic method. We are going to build the intervals off of the root note. So instead of using a formula, we're going to actually use the first note of the scale as our means of building this scale. Now this is very important because you will use this information in many different ways, whether it's on scales or chords or anything else. So this is a very important lesson, all right? So this is just another way for you to build a major scale, but it will also give you information on how to build scales in general and chords. So if this works for you, great. Go back, watch the other tutorial, get both sides of it, and then make sure you practice it. Make sure you build scales, you practice the scales on your instrument, and you hear exactly everything we're talking about, okay? So here we go. Building major scales using intervals. This tutorial is a continuation of our major scale discussion, and we are going to construct major scales in this tutorial using intervals. Previously we used a formula, now we're going to try a different way. Now using intervals to construct major scales are going to help us in many different areas. It's going to help us understand how these scales are constructed more thoroughly, why it's called a major scale, and how we can use this information to help us later on develop other scales. So to begin with, let's build a scale. Let's just start with a 1-octave C major scale. Alright, so there we go, 1-octave C major scale. Now we're going to look and analyze at every one of the notes that are in this scale, starting from the root note, C. The scale is called C major, so C is the root note, or also known as the tonic note of the scale. So that is going to be our home base. We're going to continually go back to that note to restart again. So let's begin by looking at the two notes C to D. And we'll use our keyboard down below to outline the half steps that we'll be taking to get to our intervals. So C to D, we can see, is just 2 half steps. 1, 2. And there we are, we have a whole step. Now, that's also known as a major second. So 2 half steps equals a major second, and we're going to put a capital M and a 2 in between the C and the D. Now, the next interval, we go back to C, and we go leap over the D and get to E, and now we need to count. How many half steps are there between C and E? And again, we can use our keyboard. We can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. So 4 half steps equals a major third. That's the name of it. So then we want to put on our staff capital M 3. Okay, now we're going to go back to C, and then we're going to jump up to the F. Again, how many half steps? Well, you know it was 4 to get to a major third, so we're just going another half step and to get to the F, so that is a perfect fourth. So 5 half steps is a perfect fourth. So put a capital P 4 on the staff. Back to the C again. Now we're going to jump up to the G. And we know it was 5 half steps to get to F, so we need to add 2 more. So it'll be 7 half steps to get to a perfect fifth. Capital P 5. Now we're going to go back to C, and we're going to leap up to the A. Again, we're just adding 2 half steps from our previous interval, the perfect fifth. And now we have 9 half steps, which takes us to a major 6, capital M 6. Then we go back to the C again, and we're going to leap all the way up to the B. Add 2 half steps. So now we're up to 11 half steps, which is a major 7th, capital M 7. And then just to round it out, we can identify our octave, just going from C all the way up to C. That's 12 half steps, and that is a perfect eighth, or a capital P 8. All right. So those are all the intervals that are contained within a major scale. And now you know why it's called a major scale, because all the intervals are major or perfect. So let's try our theory. Let's see how we're actually going to use this information to build a scale. Now again, this is very important because knowing the intervals of a scale are going to help you identify different types of scales that you're going to encounter throughout your musical life. So understanding, using this as your basis and understanding how this works will enable you to construct and hear other scales. So let's just erase our C scale, and then we're going to add in another scale. We're going to try a different starting note. Let's just move up a step and try D. Okay? So we're not going to write in all the notes right away. We are going to actually build the scale from the root D, from tonic D, and create the notes based off of that. So from D, we know we need a major second to start our scale. So looking at our keyboard, we know major second is 2 half steps. So we're going to go up to E. So D to E, there's our major second. Now, we need a major third. How many half steps was that? That was 4 half steps to get to a major third. So, we need to look at our keyboard because it's not all going to be white notes all the time like it was with the C scale. So we got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, which gets us to arrive at the F sharp. So we put in F sharp. All right, now going back to the D. We got to get ourselves to a perfect fourth. Now we know that's 5 half steps. It's only 1 half step away from the major third. So we are going to arrive at G for our perfect fourth. Now we need our perfect fifth. 2 more half steps away, because it's 7 half steps to get to a perfect fifth, and that will take us to the note A. Going back to D, we need to get to a major sixth. We know, again, from our previous scale, that 7 half steps gets us a perfect fifth, 9 half steps is going to get us a major sixth, and that's going to put us at the note B. Now we need to get to our major seventh. So we go back to the D and we need to do 11, right? 11 half steps. Now if you want to know a little secret, to get to the major seventh, you could always just go back a half step from the root note. Instead of having to count 11 up, just go 1 back. And that would take us to C sharp. And then we have our perfect octave, P8, with the D. So there you have it. There is our D major scale using intervals to construct it. Now, it's very important that you not only just write in these intervals, but that you hear them. You hear the distance between D and E and D and F sharp and D and G and so on. It's very important that you train your ear to hear these distances so that you can recognize and identify these scales by sound. So let's do one more scale. Let's do a flat scale. And this time we're going to get a little bit trickier. We haven't done something this involved yet, but I actually want to start us on A flat. Okay? So A flat is our starting note. So find the A flat on your keyboard, and now you have to make 2 half steps. The next note will take you to B flat, correct? Alright, so now we're at B flat. We need to get to the major third. That's 4 half steps away from A flat. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. That gets us to C. We go back to the A flat. Now we need to get to our perfect fourth. So we know that's 5 half steps. It's only a half step above the C. That means we're going to be going up to the D flat. Now, how do I know that all these notes should be flat? Well, number one, this is a flat scale. The name of the scale is A flat. In major scales, remember this rule. You do not mix flats and sharps. It is a no-no. Also, second rule, you need to remember, you cannot have the same note name twice. You cannot have a C and a C sharp. You cannot have a D and a D flat in a major scale. You need to have each letter name represented, be it sharp, flat, or natural, but you cannot duplicate that note name, the letter name. All right? So, back to our scale. We got to go from A flat to our perfect fifth. We know that is 2 half steps above the fourth. So that is going to take us up to E flat. All right, now we need our major 6. So now we're counting 9 half steps. Now we can count them, or we can just go 2 half steps above our perfect fifth, because it was 7 for the perfect fifth and it's going to be 9 for the major 6. So that will take us up to F. And then we're going to go find our major 7th. And as I said, instead of counting up 11 half steps, you can just go back from the root note by 1 half step, and that gets us G. And then we can get our octave and just put in our A flat to round it out. So there you have it. There is constructing a major scale using intervals. You have identified all the intervals of a major scale. You know that the beginning note is called the root or the tonic. You should know how many half steps it takes to achieve each interval. You also know now that you cannot have the same letter name twice in a major scale, and you cannot mix flats and sharps in a scale. Major scale, that is. When we get to other scales, you will see you can mix flats and sharps, but in a major scale, you do not do that. So that's it for this way of constructing a major scale. Stay tuned for more.